Well, hey everyone, and I welcome you back. My name is Paula, and I'm a Deathwalker, and this is part 2 of the Deathwalkers classroom. And our subject was, what do Deathwalkers really do? A deep dive. So, I'm going to pick up right where we left off. What does a Deathwalker actually do? The foundation. Or what we actually, what goes on. So when we say, I get a lot of questions like, well, what exactly do you do? Or how do you do things? Or where do we start? This is generally the very beginning of a discussion. I get more people who are interested in asking me where do they start rather than them telling me where they'd like to start. They just really don't have this is new territory. It's unknown to them. So they often do look to these people, Deathwalkers, and to help them just start the basic conversation because they've really never been informed, nurtured, and educated to be around it, comfortable enough to discuss it. So for me, I've already told you the two most important things to me are observing and listening. That's the key roles in which I find that I am giving the most value, of being the most service to. I witness. A lot of us normalize. Normalizing death is something that comes with the fortitude of just being able to openly discuss it, to be able to bring it up in a circle and know how to present it and kind of let it be guided by the energy and the vibration of the people that you're talking to. And this again requires not a skill, it's more of a gift, I would imagine, or maybe it's just a part of your personality. Maybe that has something to do with it. That you can observe and be separate of and be looking into, and at the same time you can move through the community and you can move through the gaps that you see coming or that will be that will be needed to discuss and mediate with. We ritualize. We do a lot of remembering. A lot of us in the Deathwalker world, even at the end of life guides that I have met, there's a lot of remembering. It's as if we are the keepers of memories and stuff, because when these things happen, when the dying process begins, when the death actually comes, there's so many memories in between that the families, the circle, the community, they forget because they're so entwined in the traumatic happenings of the dying and the death of their loved ones. So we are there for remembering. We are there to adapt. That's one of the clearest things too. I guess if I had to put that on the third deal of the list, I would say adaptation is right under there with being an observer and a good listener. We tend to keep things steady. We tend to be able to keep the balance. And so that is another fine line that we often work against, or we work towards. And sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's not. Sometimes there is a obstruction after obstruction after obstruction. And again, this is a part where you would jump out as the observer or as the listener to really key in and almost read. It's almost a reading of the room, of the energies, of the vibrations that are going on. It's seeing what can't be seen because everyone is so closely knit to it. They have a tunnel vision. They have this, and that's all perfectly normal. When us as Deathwalkers step out and we can see the entire landscape, and we can also we have a better navigation, if you will, because we are on the outside. We are there for absolutely the dying person in the community, and at the same time, we know we have to be there, so we have to be objective and step back. One of the things that I personally do, and most of the women that I know who are in the line of what I do, sovereignty and autonomy are a big thing, and they are something that I covet greatly. And so I tend to probably lean towards that direction more so than I would the absolute other end of it, as far as, maybe being respite work or something like that. And, I will always say that I sew shrouds, I wash bodies, I bury people naturally, I do rituals, I do ceremonies, I gather herbs, and I know my herbs. I can also sit in the dark and say nothing at all. I'm perfectly okay with the dark. I'm perfectly okay with the unknown, as far as I have been able to evolve, if that makes any sense. And I have understood for a very long time, a very, very long time, that, every day my death clock is ticking. And when I go to bed, I absolutely understand, and I tell myself in the most logical and rational way that I know how, that, if I don't wake up, and if this is it, if my body is now in the process of being in such a state that death is upon me before I wake up in the morning, it's okay. Today was a good day. I loved, I laughed, I looked at pictures, I did everything that I normally would do. So it's not something that I go to sleep and open my mind to, oh, I have all this unfinished business, and oh, I have all these things. If I wake up in the morning, and again, I take my first breath, my first thought is, with the first breath, I need to be mindful today. I need to be aware that, every moment that I breathe and I live life to the fullest and I do what I want to do, whether it's writing or making these videos or talking to a client, whatever it is, it's me showing up, knowing that I can do all this, and I still know that death could very well hit me at any time. And so I guess that's the crux of it, right? That's the true balance. That's the yin and yang. Do I always hit the mark? Hell no. There are days when I wake up just like everybody else. There's depression, there's anxiety, there's stress. Sometimes it's over my own mortality. I second guess, I question. That's part of what being human is. Falling back into that self, that ego, and when I'm a Deathwalker, I'm not in that. I literally am an observer. I'm in between, both timelines, if you will. Let's see. What else can we talk? We've already answered that. I'm just going through my notes to see where we are. I have a couple of integrations for you, I guess, well, let me get to this first. One of the other things that I would like to be able to educate people on is it doesn't matter what the name is. It doesn't matter if it's end of life guide, threshold keeper, Deathwalker, death doula. We all come from a lineage of service. We all come from a lineage of wanting to help and be of service. And for us, it happens to be at the end of life. There are many who do it at the beginning of life, and I'm sure there are many who do it in the middle of life. I have the experience of talking to many young people. If you're in your 30s and your 40s, think about your death plan. That's something that is so very important. You know, you're not in your 20s anymore. You have, most of us by 30 and 40, we have started to put together some semblance of a life. Maybe we have children, maybe we have a spouse, maybe we have both, maybe we don't, maybe we have fur babies. But at some point, there comes a time for all of us, and the sooner the better, to understand that at any given moment, death is very, very capable of coming to any one of us. That is kind of the brilliance of it. Sometimes it forewarns us, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it leaves little breadcrumbs for us to follow. Maybe it'll, sometimes there are what people call signs, or there are certain synchronicities that line up that, give you a clue. Go see your doctor, or, hey, something's wrong, So it is a fascinating enigma, if you will, death is. And it is with you every day, whether you think about it or whether you don't think about it, whether you have a plan or whether you don't have a plan. Death is still in the picture. It may be in the background. It may be cloudy and fuzzy and blurred, if you will. The filters may be different in the background for every one of us. We may have filtered it 2 or 3 levels back, but make no mistake, it doesn't care that we don't talk about it. It doesn't care that we have it filtered in the background. It doesn't care that we don't think about it in a very open-minded and in a very logical, rational way. It doesn't care whether we are young or old or whatever color or religion or race or creed. It doesn't ask our permission. So it is a full entity on its own. It is the final picture show. It's the final part that all of us play, like I say over and over, in this time and place. And it deserves to be recognized. It deserves to be honored. But more importantly, it should be sat with. It should be getting comfortable with it. It should be settling with the fact that, settling is a bad word. It should be recognizing the fact that with every moment that you live your life, and we all say, go live your best life, and by all means do. That's not the point of this. The point is that when you're living your best life, are you also thinking, hey, even in this best life, death is good too? It's okay. It can come 10 minutes from now, 10 years from now. But when you're living your best life, do you see that in a flash of an instant, it's the best life if you die as well? So that's something that I think is enough to think about for a little while. As you move through your life this week, I want you to notice a couple things. This is kind of your homework, if you will. Where have you been kept away from death? Go through your life. What did your family do or not do? What kind of interactions did you have through maybe your church or maybe your peers that you grew up with? What about funerals and stuff that you went to? What was the vibration? What was the energy? What was the amount of communication that you got or lack of communication that you got? Where and how did you first find out about what death really was? Was it traumatic? Was it shocking? Was it an ease? Were you eased into it? Or were you just completely left out of the equation altogether? Ask yourself about rituals. Do you remember any rituals being done, whether it was at the funeral, whether it was a preacher, whether it was a song being said, people standing up at the podium speaking? Play those tapes through. See how that movie or that show ended, and see if it has any similarities as to why and how you think about death today. Also, here's another small little bit. Look around and think about your family heritage. Are there any rituals or anything that you witnessed maybe, but no one taught you or no one explained to you what the reason was behind it? That's the second part of it. See if you can find a ritual or a ceremony that you remember and get the explanation to it, or even better yet, get someone to teach it to you so that you can pass it on, or maybe have it done at your death. The other thing, I guess, is, just keep showing up, folks. Just keep coming back here, and you can just take your shoes off, sit down, and we'll talk about death. I'll talk about death, if you will. And, take what you need and leave the rest always. If you need more, or if you want to learn more, of course, always feel free to reach out, subscribe, leave comments. You can send me an email at adamspaula90@gmail.com. You can go over and look at some of my works on Substack. Just look for Paula the Deathwalker. I have TikTok and all that stuff. I'm sure if you just type my name in, everything will pop up. This is the internet. This is the age of technology. Come on. So, I guess that's really about the crux of, what a Deathwalker really does. And I'll just kind of recap for the last, few minutes. Deathwalkers, death doulas, end-of-life guides, threshold keepers, bone keepers, any of the names that I have called upon in this session, or that you come across over the next decades of your life. We all have a lineage somewhere in our backgrounds. We all have a personality trait, a calling, a passion. It may not have been there our whole lives. It may have been dormant, and we will have had careers from one thing to another, but we all have always been pulled or been called upon to work with the dying and be with the death. Just as we have those who work with the birth and the bringing into life, we be of service, and we fill the gaps for the dying and for those that lead to death, of course. And we do these in all sorts of ways. I have listed so many over this session in the classroom. There's sitting vigil, there's respite care, there's making shrouds, there's gathering herbs, there's rituals and ceremonies, there's grief counseling, there's mediating with the family, there is advocating if someone is completely by themselves and they don't have a team, they don't have a community, then that person becomes kind of a jack of all trades, and that's being done too as well. You have people that come from different backgrounds that have had lifelong careers as lawyers and hospice nurses and, many, many social workers, so many things, funeral directors, embalmers, morticians, the whole nine yards. And they all have been walking on a path to get where they are actually part of the dying process and helping with us discuss and educate about death. Death literacy is so important. And the more that we can talk about it, and the more that we can normalize it, the more that we can engage and come up with sovereign autonomy for everyone to have the end-of-life choice that they choose, regardless of whether it is of anyone else's choosing. Regardless, it's not about a collective decision to decide who gets to die however we as a collective decide. It's not on us. It's for us to follow the dying person. They're leading the way. So we really do it all. It is an awakening that is happening. More and more are coming up into it. It is going to explode in the next decade or so, and that's so good because we need it to. So thanks for tuning in. Episode 3 will be coming probably in the next 2 weeks. Don't hold me to that, but that's the schedule that I'm going to keep. So many, many blessings to you, and think about death. Don't forget your homework, and we'll talk next time.